Okay, Shayna.
All right, Foghorn it is. Hang on 1 second, I'm so sorry. Good evening, everyone, and please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it onto our website and podcast. We record in audio only. Feel free to use the podcast on your website along with your big book as a resource if you missed the study portion of the meeting. The study portion is also listed on the website so you can follow along. In accordance with our group conscience on October 16, 2023, we will also be posting our podcast on YouTube. We feel that this is an effective way to carry our message to those seeking recovery in Alcoholics Anonymous.
Um, Here, you want the study pages? Just a second. I'll put them in the chat.
All right.
There you go.
Tonight's recap will start on page 17. It'll go to 19. Take up their beds and walk again. And then tonight's study pages will be starting on page 19. None of makes, ending on page 22. Hospitals and sanitariums. And then any announcements?
Yeah, good evening, family. My name's Jamie, very grateful, recovered alcoholic. We will have Group Conscience coming up next month. It's going to be, let me take a quick look at my calendar. I'm sorry here. January should be January 15th, I believe, because we have assembly coming up on the 19th through the 21st. So we'll be having Group Conscience. And more information to follow on that. I also Trish is going to be sending out an email to everyone on literature, and it's sent out from our delegate to give him a better feel. The GSB is asking how we feel about historical literature. Sounds like maybe they're wanting to make some changes and do some updates to historical literature, but it also sounds like it might not stay in alignment with what historical literature is. So there will be a survey coming out in email to all of you, but before you take it, what I'd like to try and do is get us all together for an hour or so prior to Group Conscience and talk about it so we can discuss what the questions really mean, so you can think about it as you go through the process of taking the survey, and it will help give hopefully preserve some of our historical literature. And on Christmas Day, we're going to go ahead and open up the room. Sometime we'll send out text messages and emails, but Christmas night, I'm sure we'll open the room and have a meeting probably right about this regular time for those of you who want to come to a meeting. So, that being said, good evening and welcome to the Lewisburg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group. To prepare for our Big Book study, let's get focused by having a 3-minute moment of silent meditation followed by our family's fog light prayer.
And I'm a recovered alcoholic, and my name is Shayna. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are going to start the meditation in a minute, so please take a moment to get situated.
Please be aware of background noises when you are unmuted, and sharing is not to distract others or yourself. We suggest we all observe proper Zoom etiquette. If you wouldn't do it in a live meeting, please don't do it here. And just a friendly reminder that absence of profanity offends no one. Please keep yourself muted during someone else's share, and we will call on you in the order that hands are raised.
From the foreword to the first edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, We of Alcoholics Anonymous are many thousands of men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, to show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered, is the main purpose of this book and of this group.
For the meditation, some suggestions are: focus on your breath and posture. Breathe in God and breathe out self.
Take this time to reconnect with God. Let the craziness of the day drift away and ask God to help you focus on the study.
And let's bring in those cute little monks and let them do what the monks do. Enjoy your time with God. And for those of you who wish, if you'd like to join me in our family's fog light prayer, God, let your love shine through us like a fog light, so that those that are lost, sick, and dying can find your love through us. Amen.
And let's have our secretary's report. Molly?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Molly, your recovered alcoholic secretary for the next several months. Oops, wrong page, sorry. There we go. I have asked, who ended up volunteering to do the recovered statement?
Heather?
I have asked Heather to read the recovered statement. We read this notice to explain why many people in this group identify as recovered rather than recovering, and what it exactly means to be a recovered alcoholic. Take it away, Heather.
Hi, I'm Heather. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. Recovered. We are not cured of alcoholism. Recovered, but not cured. That presents a conflict to some alcoholics. If we were cured, we would be able to drink responsibly. No, we're not cured. The allergic reaction to alcohol will remain with us for a lifetime. But we have been restored to sanity. That was the problem. The main problem of alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in the body. Page 23. We are now sane where alcohol is concerned. Consequently, we have recovered.
Thank you for joining us tonight. We meet every Tuesday starting at 5:30 p.m. Central Time with the Gerbil Fellowship Cage, where we chatter for an hour before the start of the meeting. Feel free to bring side dishes to share with the buzzards. Our Big Book study starts promptly at 6:30 p.m. Central, and we ask that you be courteous and ready to begin at the sound of the foghorn. We take our Big Book seriously. Because of this, chat will be disabled during the study. In the 1940s, when the only elements to sobriety were God, a Big Book, and one recovered alcoholic working with an untreated alcoholic, the success rate was as follows. From the foreword to the second edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, page XX, of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapse, and the remainder, those who stayed on with AA, showed improvement. And we have a show of hands of people joining us for the first time.
All regulars.
All right. Pardon me, and then the recovered alcoholics, these are your potential sponsors. Is anyone celebrating a milestone this week? Oh,
Don't see any.
I don't have, thank you, because I don't have my glasses on. I was wearing my stupid little hat instead. All right. If you should require a Big Book of your own, we have large print editions available that can be sent to you by buzzard mail. Delivery time questionable, especially at this time of year. Please remember to practice our 7th tradition by donating to the group address. Sorry, I can't see my script when. The group address, Venmo, or PayPal posted in chat. Our suggestion is to purchase a Big Book and take an untreated alcoholic through the program of recovery. Please visit our website posted in chat. Thank you, and see you next week.
Thank you so much, Molly and Sassy. And Molly, I'll try and mail out a hard copy to you next week.
You can print it out, Jamie.
It'll be okay. From chapter 2, there is a solution. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
This is an open meeting, and as such, all who have an interest in alcoholism and our program of recovery are welcome. Because this is an open meeting, you need not identify yourself, nor your reason for being here if you do not wish to do so. Your anonymity will be protected. We ask that you protect ours.
While this is an open meeting, membership in this group is limited to those who wish to recover from alcoholism and have a desire to stop drinking for good and all. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is a potential sponsor of a new member and should clearly recognize the obligations and duties of such a responsibility.
And before we begin our study of the Big Book, last week we reviewed Tradition 4. Tonight, let's take a quick look at Tradition 5. Please refer to page 562 of Alcoholics Anonymous. And our traditionalist this week is Nicole.
Hi, I am Nicole, and Alcoholic Connect, and I am your traditionalist this week. Okay, so this week it's Tradition 5, and the short version is each group has but one primary purpose: to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. And each Alcoholics Anonymous group ought to be a spiritual entity having but one primary purpose, that of carrying its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. So this tradition is part of our preamble, right? So it's obviously very important. It's to it's for the alcoholic to carry the message, whether it's to a newcomer or to someone who has many years, carry the message of hope to another alcoholic who is still suffering, that that there is hope, and that to guide us to the 12 steps and to the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. So we have to carry the message in everything we do and everywhere we go. So we never know who's going to hear the message. So this is a very important one because we are uniquely, useful to do that, right? We are we are alcoholics and we have found recovery and we can help other people do the same thing. So it's about passing hope, and our primary purpose is to carry that message to another alcoholic who still suffers. And we cannot keep this unless, we give it away to another alcoholic and take him through the big book and guide him to God into the 12 steps of recovery. And that is our primary purpose. And in this group, they stay on with people, and they really do help people try to find their path to the book and to the program and to the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. So that being said, that is the tradition 5 this week. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Well done. Glad to thank you for being of service indeed. And time for our weekly segment of That Ain't in the Book. We hear a lot of stuff said in meetings that can't be reconciled with the program as described in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. What follows are some of the things we often hear with what the book actually has to say on the subject. One of those things that we often hear is there are no musts in the book. And Jimbo is going to come in and share a line from page 82 in the 3rd paragraph. What do you got for us, Jimbo? Welcome.
Well, welcome everyone to An Alcoholic Time. Certainly he must keep sober, but there will be no home if he doesn't.
Thank you so very, very much, my friend.
All right, and as we study, please make sure to use pens, highlighters, and rulers so that you can share this experience with another alcoholic.
In order for us to stay focused as we study the Big Book, we use the Big Book study guide prepared by Joe, Charlie, and Krusty Cliff of the Dallas Primary Purpose Group.
Tonight, we are going to be starting our recap on page 17, which will be read by
Santa Claus.
Oh, Art! Santa. And then followed by our study portion, which will be read by
Pickle Chips.
Pickle Chips.
After the page is read, we will ask questions from the imaginary podium starting back where our study portion began on page 19, where Terry starts reading tonight. The answers will be one sentence unless otherwise specified, and multi-part questions are simply one sentence answers split up by commas, semicolons, hyphens, and other fun bits of punctuation.
Basically, in English, what that means is that we're going to read the material once through and then dissect the information a second time through the question and answer format. Notice how the language in the questions gives us a new light in which to consider the study material.
This is important because hearing the question or rereading the content offers a definite way of comprehending the material covered. After we have completed the study, we open up for comments, questions, and observations based on what we just read. And if you've had spiritual experiences with this information, please, by all means, feel free to share that. Please keep your share on topic, and under 5 minutes. At the 5-minute mark, you'll hear a timer beep to let you know that your time is up.
All right, however, Big Book study is not therapy. Should you begin sharing on topics which are more appropriately discussed in a different setting, i.e. a sponsor, Please do not be offended when we cut that conversation short and send the buzzard snipping at your heels. For that purpose, we have fellowship meetings before and after our study time.
You can never go wrong by commenting on the pages studied, which brings us to the words of one of our co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous. Sobriety, freedom from alcohol through the teaching and practice of the 12 steps is the sole purpose of any Alcoholics Anonymous group. And I know I'm doing this part tonight. So how we got here, as most of you know, this book study started here in my house. January 7th is going to be 4 years ago that this group has been together. And of course we got hit by COVID, and then we we went totally virtual after that, and we go through this book line by line from the title page, from the very first promise, the story of how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. And each and every chapter we go through line by line. It's a 94-week book study from beginning to end. Besides the first 164, we also visit the spiritual experience 3 times during the portion of the book study. We do a few weeks on Dr. Bob's Nightmare. We do a couple of weeks on the traditions, all with the questions format, and then closing it out before we start all over again. We have added the spiritual experience so that we can dedicate one night solely just to the spiritual experience, standalone. Tonight marks 204 weeks that we have done this book study every Tuesday night without fail, under any conditions. Boy, when I was drinking, I drank every night under all conditions. So I'm real grateful that I can be part of such a great book study. To me, I believe it's probably the greatest book study on the planet, but I might be a little biased. And I'm grateful that all of you are here. So please come and join us often, and please contribute what you have to offer, by all means. And on that note, I will let Shayna take the next part.
Before we start the recap, we will need 5 or 6 virtual hands raised if you would like to be one of our answer readers. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it onto our website. If you raise your hand and start talking and then the hand goes down, we'll keep an eye on that, because that's a Zoom update, just as an FYI. But it looks like we've got 1 hand raised. We'll need about 5 more. Yay, we got 2. 3.
I'll write the order of hands so that we have it. And Art, would you like to come in and read our recap, my friend?
I'm doing it.
Whoa, you got two devices connected.
Is that okay now?
Yep. Thank you.
All right. I thought I was going to be smart, but it didn't work. So here we go. My name is Art. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. And this is the beginning of chapter 2. There is a solution. We of Alcoholics Anonymous know thousands of men and women who were once just as hopeless as Bill. Nearly all have recovered. They have solved the drink problem. We are average Americans, all sections of this country and many of its occupations are represented, as well as many political, economic, social, and religious backgrounds. We are people who normally would not mix, but there exists among us a fellowship and friendliness and an understanding which is indescribably wonderful. You are like the passengers of a great liner in the moment after rescue from shipwreck, when camaraderie, joyousness, and democracy pervade the vessel from steerage to captain's table. Unlike the feelings of the ship's passengers, however, our joy in escape from disaster does not subside as we go our individual ways. The feeling of having shared a common peril is one element in the powerful cement which binds us. But that in itself would never have held us together as we are now joined. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way on which we can absolutely agree and upon which we can brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism. An illness of this sort, and we have come to believe it an illness, involves those about us in a way no other human sickness can. If a person has cancer, all are sorry for him, and no one is angry or hurt. But not so with the alcoholic illness, for with it there goes annihilation of all things worthwhile in life. It engulfs all whose lives touch the sufferers. It brings misunderstanding, fierce resentment, financial insecurity, disgusted friends and employers, warped lives of blameless children, and wives and parents. Anyone can increase the list. We hope this volume will inform and comfort those who are or may be affected. There are many. Highly competent psychiatrists who have dealt with us have found it sometimes impossible to persuade an alcoholic to discuss his situation without reserve. Strangely enough, wives, parents, and intimate friends usually find us even more unapproachable than do the psychiatrist and the doctor. But the ex-problem drinker who has found this solution, who is properly armed with facts about himself, and can generally win the entire confidence of another alcoholic in a few hours. Until such an understanding is reached, little or nothing can be accomplished. That the man who is making the approach has had the same difficulty, that he obviously knows what he is talking about, and his whole deportment shouts at the new prospect that he is a man with a real answer, and he has no attitude of holier than thou, nothing whatever except the sincere desire to be helpful, that there are no fees to pay, no axes to grind, no people to please, no lectures to be endured. These are the conditions we have found most effective. After such an approach, many take up their beds and walk again.
Thank you so much, Art. And now, Pickle Chips, welcome.
Pickle Chips, recovered alcoholics. None of us makes a sole vocation of this work, nor do we think its effectiveness would be increased if we did. We feel that elimination of our drinking is but a beginning. A much more important demonstration of our principle lies before us in our respective homes, occupations, and affairs. All of us spend much of our spare time in the sort of effort which we are going to describe. A few are fortunate enough to be so situated that they can give nearly all their time to the work. If we keep on the way we are going, there is little doubt that much good will result, but the surface of the problem would hardly be scratched. Those of us who live in large cities are overcome by the reflection that close by hundreds are dropping into oblivion every day. Many could recover if they had the opportunity we have enjoyed. How shall we present that which has been so freely given us? We have concluded to publish an anonymous volume setting forth the problem as we see it. We shall bring to the task our combined experience and knowledge. This should suggest a useful program for anyone concerned with a drinking problem. Of necessity, there will have to be discussion of matters medical, psychiatric, social, and religious. We are aware that these matters are, from the very nature, controversial. Nothing would please us so much as to write a book which would contain no basis for contention or argument. We shall do our utmost to achieve that ideal. Most of us sense that the real tolerance of other people's shortcomings and viewpoints and respect for their opinions are attitudes which make us more useful to others. Our very lives as ex-problem drinkers depends upon our constant thought of others and how we may help meet their needs. You may already have asked yourself why it is that all of us became so very ill from drinking. Doubtless you are curious to discover how and why, in the face of expert opinion to the contrary, we have recovered from a hopeless condition of mind and body. If you are an alcoholic who wants to get over it, you may already be asking, what do I have to do? It is the purpose of this book to answer such questions specifically. We shall tell you what we have done. Before going into detailed discussion, it may be well to summarize some points as we see them. How many times people have said to us, I can take it or leave it. Why can't he? Why don't you drink like a gentleman or quit? That fellow can't handle his liquor. Why don't you try beer and wine? Lay off the hard stuff. His willpower must be weak. He could stop if he wanted to. She's such a sweet girl. I should think he'd stop for her sake. The doctor told him that if he ever drank again, it would kill him. But there he is, all lit up again. Now, these are commonplace observations on drinkers, which we hear all the time. Back of them is a world of ignorance and misunderstanding. We see that these expressions refer to people whose reactions are different, very different from ours. Moderate drinkers have little trouble in giving up liquor entirely if they have a good reason for it. They could take it or leave it alone. Then we have a certain type of hard drinker. He may have the habit badly enough to gradually impair him physically and mentally. It may cause him to die a few years before his time. If a sufficiently strong reason, health, falling in love, change of environment, or the warning of a doctor becomes operative, this man can also stop or moderate, although he may find it difficult and troublesome and may need even medical attention. But what about the real alcoholic? He may start off as a moderate drinker. He may or may not become a continuous hard drinker. But at some stage of his drinking career, he begins to lose all control of his liquor consumption once he starts to drink. Here is a fellow who has been puzzling you, especially in his lack of control. He does absurd, incredible, tragic things while drinking. He is a real Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He is seldom mildly intoxicated. He is always more or less insanely drunk. His disposition while drinking resembles his normal nature, but little. He may be one of the finest fellows in the world, yet let him drink for a day and he frequently becomes disgustingly and even dangerously antisocial. He has a positive genius for getting tight at exactly the wrong moment, particularly when some important decision must be made or engagement kept. He is often perfectly sensible and well-balanced concerning everything except liquor. But in that respect, he is incredibly dishonest and selfish. He often possesses special abilities, skills, and aptitudes, and has a promising career ahead of him. He uses his gifts to build up a bright outlook for his family and himself, and then pulls the sprays. Oh wait, he pulls the structure down on his head by a senseless series of sprays. He is a fellow who goes to bed so intoxicated he ought to sleep the clock around. Yet early next morning he searches madly for the bottle he misplaced the night before. If he can afford it, he may have liquor concealed all over his house. To be certain no one gets his entire supply away from him to throw down the waste pipe. As matters grow worse, he begins to use a combination of high-powered sedative and liquor to quiet his nerves so he can go to work. Then comes the day when he simply cannot make it and gets drunk all over again. Perhaps he goes to a doctor who gives him morphine or some sedative which to taper off. Then he begins to appear at hospitals and sanitariums.
Thank you so much, Terry. Well done. And I am going to ask the questions tonight. Shayna will be coming in with about 7 or 8 comments as well. And the batting order tonight is going to be Kenny, Rick, William, and Steph. So we're going to go ahead and start with Kenny. How many of us earn a living 12-stepping alcoholics?
None of us make the sole vocation of this work, nor do we think its effectiveness would increase if we did.
Thank you so much. William and Steph, you need to unmute, please. Rick, next question coming to you. What is the elimination of drinking?
We feel that the elimination of drinking is but a beginning.
Thank you. And William, what is much more important than just not drinking?
A much more important demonstration of our principle lies before us in our respective homes, occupation, and affairs.
Thank you.
And I have a comment. A spiritual solution that works in every area of our lives.
Thank you, Shayna. And Steph, welcome. How many of the authors worked with suffering alcoholics?
All of us spend much of our spare time in the sort of effort which we are going to describe.
Thank you. And Kenny, what are some of us fortunate enough to do?
If you are fortunate enough to be so situated that they can give nearly all their time to the work.
Thank you. Rick, will AA bring an end to the ravages of alcoholism?
If we keep on the way we are going, there is little doubt that much good will result, but the surface of the problem would hardly be scratched.
Thank you very much. And William, with what are we overcome if we live in large cities like Buzzardland?
Those of us who live in large cities are overcome by the reflection that close by hunters are dropping into oblivion every day.
Thank you. Steph, many alcoholics could recover if what?
Many could recover if they had the opportunity we have enjoyed.
Thank you. Kenny, what question faced the first 100?
How then shall we present that which has been so freely given to us?
Thank you so much. Rick, to what conclusion did the first 100 arrive as an answer to that question?
We have concluded to publish an anonymous volume setting forth the problem as we see it.
Thank you, sir. And William, what is the content of the big book?
We shall bring to the task our combined experience and knowledge.
Thank you. And Steph, who could benefit from this accumulated experience and knowledge?
This should suggest a useful program for anyone concerned with a drinking problem.
Thank you. Kenny, what will it be necessary to discuss?
Of necessity, there will have to be a discussion of matters medical, psychiatric, social, and religious.
Thank you. Rick, the authors were aware of what?
We are aware that these matters are, that we are aware that these matters are, from their very nature, controversial.
Thank you. And William, what would really please the authors?
Nothing would really please us. It wouldn't please us so much as to write a book which would contain no basis for contention or arguments.
Thank you. And Steph, what did the authors of this book try to achieve?
We shall do our utmost to achieve that ideal.
Thank you.
And I have a comment. Were they successful in their attempt to avoid contention? The answer is demonstrated by the wide acceptance of our program.
Thank you, Shayna. And Kenny, what do most of us sense?
Most of us sense that real tolerance of other people's shortcomings and viewpoints, and a respect of their opinions or attitude, which makes us more useful to others.
Thank you. Rick, what is it that our very lives depend on?
Our very lives as ex-problem drinkers depend upon our constant thought of others and how we may help meet their needs.
Thank you. And William, what may you have already asked? William, you're muted.
You may already ask yourself why it is that all of us became so very ill from drinking.
Thank you. And Steph, what are you probably curious about?
Doubtless you are curious to discover how and why, in the face of expert opinion to the contrary, we have recovered from a hopeless condition of mind and body.
Thank you. And Kenny, coming back to you, if you are an alcoholic who wants to recover, what are you asking?
If you are an alcoholic who wants to get over it, you may already be asking, what do I have to do?
Thank you. And Rick, what is the specific purpose of this book?
It is the purpose of this book to answer such questions specifically.
Thank you. William, what will the first 100 tell us in this book?
We shall tell you what we have done.
Thank you. And Steph, before answering these questions, what did the authors do?
Before going into a detailed discussion, it may be well to summarize some points as we see them.
Thank you very much. And Kenny, coming to you, sir, what have people said to the suffering alcoholic many times? Read the entire paragraph, please.
How many times people have said to us, I can take it or leave it alone. Why can't he? Why don't you drink like a gentleman or quit? That fella can't handle his liquor. Why don't you try beer and wine? Lay off the hard stuff. His willpower must be weak. He can't stop. He could stop if he wanted to. She's such a sweet girl. I should think he stopped for her sake. The doctor told him that if he ever drank again, it would kill him. But there he is, all lit up again.
Thank you. And Rick, are these commonplace observations?
Now these are commonplace observations on drinkers which we hear all the time.
Thank you. William, what is behind them?
Back of them is a world of ignorance and misunderstanding.
Thank you. Steph, do such comments come from alcoholics?
We see that these expressions refer to people whose reactions are very different from ours.
Thank you.
And I have a comment here. We will now see the description between the moderate drinker or the acute alcoholic and the description of the real chronic alcoholic. We should use this in helping us to determine which type of alcoholic we are in our self-diagnosis.
Thank you, Shana. Kenny, what is a moderate drinker?
Moderate drinkers have little trouble in giving up liquor entirely if they have good reason for it.
Thank you. Rick, what can they do that alcoholics cannot do?
They can take it or leave it alone.
Thank you. William, what is the next type of drinker mentioned?
Then we have a certain type of hard drinker.
Thank you. And Steph, could his habit be serious?
He may have the habit badly enough to gradually impair him physically and mentally.
Thank you. Kenny, coming back to you. What could it do to him?
It may cause them to die a few years before it's time.
Thank you. Rick, two-part question. Can the hard drinker, a drunk, stop or moderate if given a reason to do so? And could he benefit from treatment?
If a sufficiently strong reason, ill health, falling in love, change of environment, or the warning of a doctor becomes operative, this man can also stop or moderate, although he may find it difficult and troublesome and may even need medical attention.
Thank you. And William, do the hard drinker and the real alcoholic look similar on the surface? Read the entire paragraph, please.
But what about the real alcoholic? He may start off as a moderate drinker. He may or may not become a continuous hard drinker, but at some stage of his drinking career, he began to lose all control of his liquor, his consumption, once he started to drink.
Thank you, sir.
And another comment. What is the significant difference between the hard drinker, a drunk, and the real alcoholic? The drunk could quit drinking if he would. The alcoholic would quit if he could. A very significant difference.
Thank you, Shana. And Kenny, coming back to you. No, Steph, it goes to you. I'm sorry. What is especially puzzling about the real alcoholic?
Here is the fellow who's been puzzling you, especially in his lack of control.
Thank you. Kenny, what does he do while drinking?
He does absurd, incredible, tragic things while drinking.
Rick, does the real alcoholic experience a change of personality when he drinks?
He is a real Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Go ahead, Shana. You are muted, dear.
I'm so sorry. Comment here is Robert Louis Stevenson, the author of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, died of alcoholism. It is believed that this was his story.
Thank you. And William, coming to you, is the real alcoholic usually mildly intoxicated?
He is seldom mildly intoxicated.
Thank you. Steph, he is almost always in what condition?
He is always more or less insanely drunk.
Thank you. Kenny, are many real alcoholics decent people when sober? 2 sentences, please.
His disposition while drinking resembles his normal nature but little. He may be one of the finest fellows in the world.
That's it. Thank you. And Rick, what happens when they drink?
Yet let him drink for a day, and he frequently becomes disgustingly and even dangerously antisocial.
Thank you. William, at what is he a genius?
He has a part of geniuses for getting tight at the exact wrong moment, particularly when some important decision must be made up to judgment kept.
Thank you. And Steph, a 3-part question. A, is the real alcoholic a normal person in every way but one? B, what is that one? And C, in this one respect, they are incredibly what?
He is often perfectly sensible and well balanced concerning everything except liquor. But in that respect, he is incredibly dishonest and selfish.
Thank you.
And I have a comment. Here the authors make a statement as to the truth about alcoholics. We are unbelievably selfish and dishonest. As we take and experience the steps, this will become very clear.
Thank you, Shayna. And Kenny, are most alcoholics talented people?
He often possesses special abilities, skills, and aptitude, and has a promising career ahead of him.
Thank you. Rick, 2-part question. A, how does the real alcoholic use his gifts? And B, what does the alcoholic do to scuttle success?
He uses his gifts to build up a bright outlook for his family and himself, and then pulls the structure down on his head by a senseless series of squeaks.
Thank you. William, should a drunk alcoholic sleep all day and all night?
He is the fellow who goes to bed so intoxicated he often slept clock around.
Thank you.
Yet,
Nope.
Oh,
That was it. Thank you. Steph, the alcoholic's sleep is interrupted for what reason?
Yet early next morning, he searches madly for the bottle he misplaced the night before.
Thank you.
And I have another comment. Have you ever had to search for a bottle to get your day started?
Boy, howdy. Kenny, 2-part question. A, if an alcoholic has sufficient funds, what does he do? And B, why would he do that?
If he can afford it, he may have liquor concealed all over his house to be certain no one gets his entire supply away from him to draw down the worst fight.
Thank you. Rick, 2-part question. A, when an alcoholic quits working, what do many alcoholics add to their drinking? And B, what do they hope to accomplish?
As matters grow worse, he begins to use a combination of high-powered sedative and liquor to quiet his nerves so he can go to work.
Thank you.
And another comment. Have you ever used any high-power sedatives, over-the-counter medication, or any illicit drugs to go to work and function? Have you self-medicated to function daily?
Every day. William, what follows this effort?
then come the day when he simply cannot make it and get drunk all over again.
Thank you. And Steph, What is the next step to continue to be able to function?
Perhaps he goes to a doctor who gives him morphine or some sedative with which to taper off.
Thank you so much. And Kenny, you get the final question of the night. Then, where do the real alcoholics start winding up?
Then it begins to appear in hospitals and sanitariums.
Thank you so much. Well done, everyone. Thank you so much. I appreciate your participation. And now the floor is open for questions, comments, observations, experience, spiritual experience. Please do not be shy on this matter. It's the pre-Christmas jitters I can see. Shayna, come on in.
I'll come in. Thank you. Shayna, recovered alcoholic. Thank you, everybody, for this meeting and all the work that it takes to function. Just kind of reading back through here, it definitely brings up a lot of those painful memories. Not knowing that I didn't have the power to not drink. I knew I didn't want to drink, but I didn't know how to not drink. I didn't know how to be. And what really stuck out to me was the just how to function. Like, did you ever look for a bottle, or I don't know exactly how it was said, but pretty much, to function daily. I could not be anywhere. I couldn't be present. I had to be loaded. I couldn't show up. It was like just a big ball of fear and uncomfortable. And I just didn't know what was happening. I didn't know that there was a book that explained my disease. I didn't even know it was a disease. So, and doing these book studies, it really just brings me back, and thinking, like, thank God that somebody has done this for us, and given us a solution. I don't think I'd be alive today without it. So, I think that's all I've got for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. William, come on in, brother.
My name is William. I'm alcoholic, and whenever we read this, when I first came to Alcoholics Anonymous, I couldn't see none of this. But whenever we read this, and I get a chance to use it as a gauge to measure, where I'm at, where I came from in my sobriety, and I'm grateful for that, to begin to see that today, and I definitely thought willpower I could use on alcohol, because I came from a rough spot in life, and I had did some things in life, and I thought it was because of my willpower. So I thought I could do the same thing with alcohol. Alcohol, yeah, it's and I tried it and got advice from people who were drinking like me. They gave me all kind of stories not to do it. It wasn't until I got to Alcoholics Anonymous that ingredients of people who recover that I began to stay here and get sober. Now I'd like to read this part that we read today in the book, and it comes to the truth, see what kept me here. It's talking about the real true tolerance and love for one alcoholic. See what I start off with where exactly. Many recovered if they had the opportunity. We enjoyed the this book contains. Oh yeah, there you go, right. It's nothing will please us so much as to write a book which contains no basis for contention or argument. We shall do our utmost to achieve that idea. most of us sense that real tolerance of other people, shortcoming and viewpoints, and a respect for their opinion or attitude, which make us more useful to others, you know, and that's that unconditional love that they had for me when I first came to Alcoholics Anonymous. They passed that same thing on to me, and I'm grateful I could see that and understand that today, you know. You know, even in the beginning when I was struggling, they told me keep coming back, keep coming back, you know, and they suggested things that I should do. It was a suggestion, you know, and I can remember. I can remember thinking other things were more important than coming to meetings, reading the literature and stuff like that, you know. And nobody told me no. Other things in life were important. And I like it. And another part of the book will Bill say that, you know, because we look at people, we look at each other, we look 2 eyes, 2 ears. The outer folks of us look the same, you know. But the damage that has been done on the inside that we can't see, you know. And so that is the part that I began to learn, that we have to allow each other, because I had done a whole lot of emotion damage. They was talking about the physical damage. You know, I was an athlete. I could take care of the physical part, but the emotion part, that's what was dragging me down there, you know, because I seen all this stuff falling down on me, and my disease never told me you could never do enough. More, and, you know, and I just didn't see no success in my life. But I had a successful life, but I just couldn't see it, you know. So as I began to stay here, and I began to see these things, you know, and the other thing it was talking about, none of us will make a vocation out of this, you know what I mean? And what I learned here, you know, I'm just a small grain of sand on a beach, but a very important grain of sand to keep it from eroding, you know. So do whatever I can, so this will be here for the next person, whether that putting money in the basket, during service, making our program possible. That's what I try to do, you know. And when I can do that, I feel good about myself. I have a purpose in life. I truly believe this is my purpose calling, you know, because I grew up in a whole lot of people who had purpose in their life, and they were doing it, you know. And as I do, nothing that I did before I got to Alcoholics Anonymous that I thought was a purpose until I came to AA. And as I came to AA and began to stay sober, I found so many other things I could do to feel good about it. You know. So y'all taught me how to be responsible. And the most important thing, that unconditional love. That unconditional love for the next sickness of alcohol that come inside the room. And then when I began to do that in the room, as they alluded to in the reading, outside of the room to people, you know what I mean? And I tell you, I seen this guy on the elevator the other day, you know, and seemed like he was never speaking. And I tried to start a little conversation, so I threw my opinion up, and he had a different of opinion. And all I said, a little word like this, I said, no, you're right. And did he take up the conversation from there and led it, man? He just got all into stuff like that. And you know what? I left in peace. I left in peace. I would have no difficult emotion about that. So y'all, in here you have taught me how to live a peaceful, existing life and be okay with me in the world about this. So thank you so much for letting me share that. And I seen all that in the book. I seen that all in the book, you know. And thank God they wrote a book that we who get sober, we could do that each other without arguments, without politics, all that other stuff that people get involved in, you know. We can still love each other, no matter what you look like. You say you're alcoholic, I hear you share, I know you is, and I'm to do whatever I can for you. That lead on to other areas of my life. So thank you.
Thank you, William. Good to have you, brother. Thank you for your participation. Pickle Chips, welcome.
Guys, I had a couple of comments. Pickle Chips, recovered alcoholic. What William said about having a purpose, you know, before, or even while, my purpose in life was to be a good mom. That was my utmost purpose in life. And as my sons became adolescents, a lot of trouble all the time, I kind of gave up on that purpose and kind of said, screw it, you know, and I drank even more so I didn't have to think about it. But today, I can honestly say I do have a purpose. And being a good mom is not one of them. It isn't my job anymore to be a good mom. And that's another story because I'm living with my family. Anyway, what I really wanted to comment on is this is like my third round of this book with this group, and I never heard that comment that Shana made about Robert Louis Stevenson. Number one, I didn't know that he wrote Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and that this part might have been about him. And so I'm curious about what the connection was to Bill W. and Robert Louis Stevenson, and if he ever got sober. I don't remember ever hearing that before, but sometimes I don't hear things till I'm ready to hear them. So that always, anything to do with our history just fascinates me. So anyway, that's all I'm gonna say for now. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Fireman, welcome. Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you all. Glad I could make tonight. Rick Alcoholic. Yeah, but at some stage, I think it's funny how it's called a drinking career. Losing all control. But on page 20, where, you know, how many times people have said to us, you know, but I would say to myself, they can take it or leave it. How come I can't? You know, why don't I drink like a gentleman? Whatever a gentleman was to me when I drank like that, I don't know. But there came a time when I just accepted the way I drank. I kept on drinking. I just had these attitudes that, you know, trouble wasn't coming my way. My job was not threatened. I didn't know. At the time, I didn't think she's not throwing me out. It's not until later on I found out she was in talks with her aunt about what to do. So I accepted. I said, why can't they? I am going to work. I am doing things I need to do when I'm to be with the family. I was with the family, even though I didn't like every minute of it when I was with them. Why? Because I couldn't drink. I didn't drink with them. I couldn't drink at work, but for some reason I didn't. You know, it wasn't like being with the family. You know, I was okay. You can't drink here. Nobody drinks here, so nobody drinks here, so you don't drink here. Type attitude. You know. I don't know. It's just where I remember just saying, okay, you know, you're a drinker. Nothing's happening. You know, you are getting checkups. You are coming out with good physical reports. You are. It's just others didn't like the way I drank. You know, and I thought something was wrong with them. And then I thought I had control, because there were times when I would leave it alone for 2 to 3 days. A week seemed like forever, so I didn't do a week. If I did 2 or 3 days, that's enough to shut everybody up, leave me alone, and I would start up again. And if they didn't like it, I would disappear. Thought all that was normal, but maybe not normal, but I accepted it. Why can't everybody else? So those questions they ask, why doesn't he change his brand? Why doesn't he try lay off the hard stuff? That never entered my mind, because I wanted to drink this stuff that got me drunk. Never thought of it like that. But I'm glad I came. It took me a while to accept that I couldn't remain that way. And it's through the help of others, the sponsor and the work of this program, that today I firmly believe I sit here today is because, as the rest of you know, the only way to keep what you have today is to work with others. I wasn't working with somebody for a bit. Now, what did I do? I took a big book meeting into a men's sober living house. A number of people, men and women, jumped in and are helping with that. Okay, well, and they're good meetings. They're attending, they're asking questions. So for me to stay active in this program, for Rick, and for many others, but I'll talk about Rick. This program just might not work for me. There is a gentleman with almost 40 years. I don't drink and go to meetings. That's all I need to do. I just drink and I don't drink and go to meetings, and it works for me. That ain't gonna work for me. It's not gonna work for me. I know that. So the giving back part, is the way this thing will stay alive if we all do that. Thank you. I'm rambling. Thank you.
Jimbo, welcome, brother. Come on in.
Hello, everyone. Jim, alcoholic. So I just want to comment, and I hope I'm not overstepping my boundaries on this, but what William said, it really hit me, what he said about just a grain of sand, but yet an important grain of sand that's keeping the beach from eroding, something like that. I think that was awesome, the way he said that. I mean, I got that. That hit me. I was like, I just liked it. It sounded very good. It sounded very, very important. I don't know, to me. But so going over this, especially here, page 20. I'm reading some of this stuff, and I can sometimes. I mean, how do I say, like, if I could trick my brain into considering it, like, I'm not an alcoholic reading some of this stuff, and I definitely wouldn't do that. I don't want to. When I started reading this for the first time, I go, ooh, like, here's a way out. Here's a way out. And if I'm looking for a way out, I'm an alcoholic, and like one thing it came to me was like it says let's see here. Yeah, I switched from beer to wine, so I wouldn't get that much, that drunk. And the other thing is, I stopped drinking. Like the willpower. It says, his will. You might lay off the hard stuff. His willpower must be weak. So, I actually I didn't drink for 17 years. Just dry. No way. But I was miserable. I mean, just 100% miserable. And then I picked up again. And that's actually when I started drinking wine. But I was like, it's to me, it's the how do you call it? The spiritual experience, being connected with my higher power, which I didn't have a higher power when I was not drinking. I definitely had all the isms when I wasn't drinking. And I had no program. I said, here's another thing I can relate to. So once he starts, at some stage, you're like, here's it. But what about the real alcoholic? He may start off as a moderate drinker, which sometimes I, start off a moderate drinker, take it or leave it, and then he may not become a continuous hard drinker, which I wasn't drinking every day, but when I went through that, and then it says, but at some stage of his drinking career, he begins to lose control of all his liquor consumption, and that there's so many times I'd go out at night with my buddies or whatever, and that's I'm only gonna have three drinks, 4 drinks, and I'd wake up the next morning, blacked out, not knowing what I did. So it really lays it out in here, I believe, on and being true with yourself. I can be true to myself. So I like to just say, you know what? Yeah, I'm an alcoholic, and I don't want to question if I am or not. It's safe for me to say yes and stay in this program. I think that's all I have for tonight, though. So thank you.
Thank you, Jimbo. Good to see you, brother. I'm going to go ahead and jump in here for a minute, folks. And I'm going to go to Terry's question first. Shadowed all of his life by the cloud of alcoholism, Stevenson well knew the good and evil of strong drink. This book investigates Stevenson's strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Hyde as an analogy of alcoholism. No, he certainly never became a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I will tell you why. Because he died on December 3rd, 1894. So he died long before the birth of Alcoholics Anonymous, and he died from a hemorrhagic stroke, which very easily could have been, as we know, alcoholism causes all kinds of problems in our body. Welcome, Trish. Good to see you tonight. So here's one of there's several things that I love about tonight's reading. First off, is they tell us that we don't make a soul vocation out of this work. There are some people who get sober and go to work in treatment centers and stuff, but that is still separate from Alcoholics Anonymous, as it should be. And if you become a treatment center counselor or so on, and I have known many who developed the mindset, well, yeah, I still really need the program, but I work with it all day, so I'm really doing it. Well, you might be doing a program, but it's a program that is generally got some state and federal mandates on it, and that's the beautiful thing about Alcoholics Anonymous is we don't have any state and federal mandates. We don't have any criteria that we have to meet except to help another alcoholic recover from alcoholism. The next thing that I love, and they touch right here on step 12 in the third line tonight. A much more important demonstration of our principles lies before us in our respective homes, occupations, and affairs. The idea of practicing these principles in all of my affairs. What are the principles? They are not the one-word virtue associated with the step. They are the actual steps in every aspect of my life as I leave the halls of Alcoholics Anonymous. But I live this program in every aspect of my life. And that's what I'm supposed to do. I spend much of my spare time and working time. And I can see how those folks back then were very, very fortunate to be able to spend so much time working with others. And I know for me personally, it has become the greatest blessing of my life to be able to sit down and work with another alcoholic and or group of alcoholics, no matter what the cost is to me. No matter if I'm overtired the next day or what. It is... Turn your notifications off, Trish. It is a very small price to pay to be able to watch someone else recover and change and grow in this program. And I get to witness that all the time. We see lots of alcoholism in big cities, but we see lots of alcoholism in our small towns, in our little groups of people that we hang out around with too. We can see alcoholism in everywhere we go. One of the things that I really like about this is it keeps referring to the first 100 in tonight's study. And we go to meetings all the time and we hear about how much this is a we program and it's we and we and we and we. When they're talking about the we in the book, they're not talking about you and me. Some of us weren't even born yet. They're talking about the first 100 in their experience. They're talking about how they found a spiritual solution to one of the oldest diseases on the planet. And while so much of the book is written in the we, and we read it in the we in meetings and so on and so forth, and while we can go to meditation meetings together and stuff like that, it's limited to how much we can practice it together. But I myself can practice 100% of all of it myself. So when I read the book, if I learn how to read the book in the first person, it will absolutely change my life, because now I'm not thinking about them. When I read it in the we, I'm taking their experience. But now, when I read it in the first person, I'm applying their experience to my life. And that application will change my spiritual DNA. And it changes every part of me. I love this part. How then shall we present that which has been so freely given to us? We have concluded to publish an anonymous volume setting forth the problem as we see it. We shall bring to task our combined experience and knowledge. This should suggest a useful program to anyone concerned with the drinking problem. Of necessity, there we will have discussion on matters medical, psychiatric, social, and religious. We are aware that these matters are in their very nature controversial. Nothing would please us more than to write a book which contains no basis for contention or argument. And I believe that they honestly tried to do that. I believe that this book is written in a very spiritual manner that pulled from science, from psychology, from religious teaching. But you ever sit in a meeting or sit in a book study and go, that crap don't apply to me, man? Or know somebody that says, well, it'll work for you, but it won't work for me. Hear it all the time. The biggest controversy in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous really is when somebody fights the idea of a relationship with a higher power. You know, that's their business, not my business. It's only my business to talk about how I have developed a relationship with that higher power. And if that offends them, well, I'd much rather offend them than offend my God. And if that's controversial to them, then so be it. Because our fellowship, sadly, has become, as much as I hate this word, very politically incorrect and intolerant. You know, and yet our fellowship and our program is the single most accepting fellowship of people who are different than we are in the world. Doesn't matter what your nationality is, your sexuality, your religious beliefs, non-religious beliefs, or what it is. We love you because you're an alcoholic. And we are still here to give help and hope, regardless of the differences, because we have that common bond of alcoholism. And I love the fact that in this tonight, they give us the distinction between a moderate alcoholic, a hard drinker, and the real alcoholic. The alcoholic of the hopeless chronic variety. That's who I am. That book was written for people like me. But here's the thing. If no one is ever willing to open up the book and read it, and read the doctor's opinion with someone who can sit down and help them understand what it says, and read the first 43 pages, 51 pages in all, they will never be able to make the self-diagnosis as to whether or not they are an alcoholic. Because this chapter tonight is still about the self-diagnosis of alcoholism, my alcoholism. And if someone's not willing to pick up the book and at least go through 51 pages to discover whether or not they're an alcoholic. They may very well come to Alcoholics Anonymous, very possibly for years or decades, because somebody else told them that they need to come to Alcoholics Anonymous, whether it be a judge, a wife, a kid, a friend, a psychologist. But, I think of page 30, which we'll be coming up on in a few more weeks, we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. And all of this that we read tonight is all about giving us some things that we can relate to help us with that self-diagnosis. And of course, I could go on and on for hours about this, and nobody's raised their hand, so I will stop going on about it, because there's plenty more I could talk about this whole part that we have read tonight. Here's the interesting thing that I would encourage everyone to maybe try. Go back and take a look at the pages that we studied tonight and ask yourself one simple question at every line. Have I ever been who they're talking about? Maybe you will find out whether you are a moderate drinker, a heavy hard drinker, or a real alcoholic of the chronic hopeless variety. Thank you. All right, who's next? Okay, Art, you're on.
Good evening, folks. My name is Art. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. And I was just thinking about the various types of alcoholic that they describe in this chapter. And in my drinking career, if you will, passed through pretty much all of those stages. There was a time when I was that guy that could quit but given a sufficient reason. There was a time I was that guy that couldn't quit even if he wanted to. And I thought I didn't want to. And then there was a time when I was that guy that wanted to but couldn't. And that's when I arrived at the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous, defeated and desperate, and finally willing to do whatever I could, as it's sometimes described, whatever it takes to be rid of this curse. And so I was finally ready to take the first step. And that's when recovery began for me. I remember well what it felt like to finally admit defeat, complete, without reservation, and wasn't a good feeling. But as I began my journey through the steps, I discovered something that step 2 brought me some hope. That if there was a power that could restore me to sanity, and if I could discover how to tap into that power, then maybe my own personal powerlessness wasn't such a bad thing after all. And then in step 3, asked me to make a decision to do something I had no idea how to do. That I should decide to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood Him. And how do you do that? I didn't even know where to begin. But I pressed on through the next 4 steps and discovered in that process how I was to turn my will and my life over to the care of a loving God that I didn't understand. And so as this process continues, I begin to see glimmers of hope and some relief. And I learned to trust. And so with faith comes hope. With trust comes peace. And I began to recognize some of these spiritual experiences that happened. And I continue to have them today. I believe that God speaks to us in ways that we don't understand. And many times kind of pass it off as something other than what it really is. And I had an experience this weekend that it occurred to me that it was divine intervention, but not really. I mean, it was until I shared it with my son. And I don't usually talk about the things that I do out in the world, but I was driving back to my job here in South North Carolina from being home for a day, and had to pull off the freeway to get some gas. I filled my tank with gas, and I got back in ready to move on my way, and my truck was, all the electronics were dead. Nothing was working. I had no idea why. I had no idea what I was going to do, how I was going to continue on my trip, what was going to happen. I don't know. So I started working on all these things. And then this lady pulled into the gas station and got my attention. She told me that her dad was in the hospital in a neighboring town, and she had been there to visit. Now she was on her way home, and she had her tank was empty, and she had no way to get gas to get home. Could I help her? I gave her a $5 bill, and I got back in my truck, and everything started working. Started right up, went on my way. I believe that was a God shot. I ran low on gas at that time. I picked that particular service station because that lady was coming along for me to help. Once my mission was finished, my car started and went, and I was able to continue my trip. Now, some may think that's nonsense, but I think God speaks to us in ways like that we often miss. And the longer I follow this road, the book calls of Happy Destiny, the more I recognize these little God shots, if you will. And it reminds me of a definition of coincidence that I heard many years ago. And really kind of, that's probably, there's something to that, but never really took it to heart. A coincidence is a minor miracle where God wishes to remain anonymous. And I think we have a lot of these, what we consider to be coincidences in our life, that if we look at them a little closer, become minor miracles. Things that even as simple as on a rainy day and need to go to the store, and you pull into the parking lot, and every parking space is filled except that one right next to the door. How does that happen? I don't know. But I think it's something that I need to pay more attention to. I need to thank God for those moments that things like that happen to me. And I also need to thank God for those times when things seem to be not things going right. And yet, at the end of the day, it all works out just fine. I need to be more conscious of those little things, that indications of God's guidance in my life. And sometimes I get so caught up in what I'm doing that I forget to look for them. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you, my friend. Trish, would you like to read us out? Of course, you'll have to unmute.
From page 164 out of our book. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask Him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with Him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
Thank you so much. You know, folks, it's the holidays, and I'm sure that many of us spent a lot of drunk holidays over something, and it probably wasn't the party. It was probably some sort of emotional pain. I know I certainly did. Going to be a lot of people who died tonight and through this holiday season from untreated alcoholism, and I believe that we're all here because somebody else prayed for us. So let's take a moment of silence for this still sick and suffering, and we will close out and circle up in our usual pickle way and close out with the Lord's Prayer. Here's your moment. Thank you. Who will take us from shame to grace if we let him? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in the heavens. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. And like I said, folks, I think Christmas night we'll still go ahead and open up at the normal time for an impromptu. Christmas night will be Monday night. So if you have nothing going on and you're stuffed and you're tired of family and cleaning up wrapping paper, come join us. No drunk should ever be alone on a holiday.
Have a good night, everyone, and Merry Christmas.
Right back at you.
Happy holidays to you.
Thank you. Same to you. Love you.
Everyone.
Same to you guys.
See you next week.
Terry, I love your French bulldog.
Oh my God, she's a gremlin.
That's because you sprinkled water on her.
Yeah, that's because you don't know her. Okay, I gotta go. My cough is getting worse, so I'm gonna take some, not cough medicine, but cough drops and go to bed.
Okay.
Love y'all.
Love